Notice how easy it is to go live when no one's waiting for it. It's so easy to go live. That's just a little bit of an inside joke. And it's easy for you guys to hear me when I haven't sent out emails saying, "Hey, we're going to do this big thing," and when I haven't sent out a text message and spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars trying to get people to know that there's going to be a live stream, then the audio works just great. Just great. What's up, guys? Let's do another Q&A session. It's been about a month since I did it last, and I think it'd be fun to do one again. I was just looking at my notes, and I think it was around February 4th or so, the last time that I did a Q&A session. So I wanted to do another one today. So it's Monday, March 3rd. We have made it to March. There have been a few days in the last little while where I've been like, oh, look, spring might be on its way. And then other days where I'm like, no, it's absolutely not. I was coming out of the grocery store just a couple hours ago, went down there to grab some things to eat. And I came out and I'm just like, it's dreading the walk back to the truck because it was cold. So, but anyway, let us know where you're coming in from and what bike you're riding and what questions you have. We've got Damian Roberts in here. He says, wow, we can hear you. LMAO. Nate Martinez says, hi. Damian says, what's the Newton weight of my Husky on Mars? I do not know. I know Mars has a lot less gravity than we do. I think Mars has about 50% the gravity that we do, but I don't know how many how many newtons your bike is over there. I am as they say, like a little bit of a space nerd. I do love studying space and rockets and hearing about solar system things and all that stuff. So that's fun. It's been one of my interests ever since I was a little kid. So yeah, we could talk space if you want to talk space, but I figured maybe we want to talk dirt bikes. But I'll answer any question that you've got, unless it's too personal of a question and I feel like it's too private. But at this point, I'll answer just about anything. The sweepstakes right now is for that 2025 Gas EC 300 GP. I've got a lot of money in that bike. We had a pretty slow start, a very, very slow start to the sweepstakes. I think it might have something to do with the fact that like Blue Ribbons Coalition ended their sweepstakes on February 28th, the day before I started mine on March 1st, but it's pretty slow start. But if you want to get entered into that, you go to my website, dirtbikechannel.com. You can buy anything that I've got up for sale there, or you use my links, my affiliate links to Rocky Mountain ATV. That also gets you entries. And during the first 5 days of the month, which is March 1st through March 5th, we're doing 2x on all orders, which means that we're going to double your entries on anything that you buy with me on my website or on Rocky Mountain ATV. Now, we will do another bonus period in the middle of the month, and then again, a bonus period at the end of the month. They're both, all three of them are just 2x entries. You get most of your entries on these sweepstakes. I've done it. I don't know anyone that's done more sweepstakes than me as far as for dirt bikes. You get most of your entries on the first couple of days and the last couple of days. But we had a very slow start, very, very slow start, which isn't great for me, but whatever. It is what it is, and hopefully you just bounce back from it. But it's pretty sick bike. We did a full upgrade on the suspension. We went with the WP 6500 Pro. It's the Exact Pro 6500 cartridges in that. Moto Experts hooked us up with those. Also custom valving, and then some black DOA fork lowers that are absolutely killer. Black Cerakoted fork lugs, and then a custom bladder and custom valving in the shock as well. So a ton of stuff there. And then because of the Brake Tech recall on that, that affected that model, I went ahead and swapped everything for Brembo. So the front brake, master cylinder and caliper, Brembo. Rear brake, master cylinder and caliper, Brembo. So that's pretty sick. So somebody's going to have that bike and it's going to be pretty amazing. I'm going to go down and shoot some footage at Kevin's shop at Moto Experts and just talk to him a little bit more about valving and talk to him about some of these inserts that you can have a suspension tech, or even you can put in, like this WP 6500 kit, and how that compares to what you have in the stock open cartridge and closed cartridge and things like that. So I want to have a little bit more of a discussion with him about that. So watch for that content to be coming out too. David says he's got a 2015 TC 250 Shagband Outdoors is coming in from Washington with a 2017 KTM 250XC. Nate Martinez is he's in Colorado on a YZ250. Damien is in Michigan, rode yesterday at 29 degrees. Man, it is cold. I rode one day last week, and the thermometer said it was about 40, but with the wind chill, it felt like it was 20, and it was not great. But Smoke and Trail says I like dirt bikes. Damian Roberts says I'm buying something next weekend for my new bike coming this weekend from your link to Rocky Mountain. Thank you, Damian. David says that he bought a shirt. That's fantastic. I'm not wearing I've got a couple of new shirt designs, and I'm not wearing one because they're both out in the shop. Anyway, Nate says, I'm going to buy a rear tire. What kind are you running? Well, or what kind do I like? I have a few that I like. In fact, I have an email that I send out to people because I get this email question quite a bit. So if you email me, I can just send this to you. It's kind of the tires that I like. I don't have any particular order, but like one that's been really great. I like the gummies, or at least the semi gummies. So the IRC VE33S Gakota tire is a really good one. It's not the softest gummy out there, but it's one of the ones with the stiffer sidewall, and it lasts longer than a lot of them. Another one that I really, really love is the Shinko R520 DC. It's a dual compound tire. That one's fantastic. Obviously, there's the Shinko 525 Cheater that I really like. There's the Tusk Talon. If you want a really soft tire that is very economical, look for the Tusk Talon tire. They also have a front tire that matches up with that. I really like those. Anyway, so that's a little bit of info there on tires. And this is just what I use in the West. The gas actually came with the Dunlop AT82 tire, which I have not tested yet, and I don't know how much testing I'm going to do on the gas, to be honest. But I'm going to have to try that tire, that Dunlop AT82, because for years we've had the AT81. It's been kind of like it's been the thing that most of the manufacturers have put on these off-road bikes and the cross-country bikes. Basically, if it has an 18-inch wheel, that's kind of what KTM and Gas and Husqvarna and Yamaha and Honda have been putting on, and even Kawasaki, I think. They've been putting on these Dunlop AT81s if it's an 18-inch wheel. Now we've got the AT82, and the only time I've seen it is on this 2025 Gas EC300 GP. I bought three dirt bikes I bought three dirt bikes the same day, and only one of them came the gas I bought, and I bought a KTM 250XC. It was also 2025, and I bought a 2025 KTM 250 SXF. So I bought those three bikes on the same day, and the only one that came with the Dunlop AT82 was the gas. It's kind of interesting. So I need to test that tire, but I don't know. Damien Roberts says replace the pot metal throttle housing for a billet one. They are junk stock. I'm not exactly sure which one Damien is talking about, but I will say there's a lot of things that you can upgrade. I can't even remember the last time I broke a throttle housing. So I think what Damien's talking about, maybe you looped it over and dumped it in some rocks or something and broke a throttle housing. I could totally see that happening. In all the crashing that I've done, I don't think I've ever even broken a throttle housing. So it's funny because in years past, like I used to do so many things to the bikes because it's like, oh, well, I saw this happen once. And so now it's like, well, now I think I have to do that, and it's a tricky question because sometimes, yes, it's very important to upgrade. Even things like rear disc guards. I almost never run a bike without a rear disc guard. But how many times am I actually going to hit that rear brake disc and bend it? I don't know, but a lot, because I do see a lot when I put the things. The reason why I keep running those is I'll put those rear disc guards on, and then I'll look after 10 hours and see how many things have hit that. And so I keep doing it. But as far as like, a throttle housing, I've been doing this for 15 years. Maybe I've just gotten lucky. And maybe you've been unlucky. So I'm not saying you're doing the wrong thing, but especially if I'm churning through bikes, it doesn't make a ton of sense to be changing everything out. And there's a a give and take on this stuff. Let me give you an idea. This is an example of replacing something, but in the latter years of the TPI, in the TPI era, everyone was freaking out that on the KT, the throttle, it was like the gas. It's not a petcock, but it's kind of like where the fuel came out of the bottom of the tank. It came out of the bottom of the tank on the side, and there was like a little plastic thing there. Anyway, sometimes people would tip over the bike, and that would get broken off, and so the people started selling billet aluminum ones, and I started kind of putting those on. And then KTM kind of solved that problem, but created another. They basically made it so we're not going to have the petcock. I'm saying petcock, it isn't a petcock, but I'm not going to have the fuel pickup right down there on the bottom of the tank. We're going to put it up inside the tank and protect it more, up kind of in the middle of the tank. So now you can't break it off, but it's also possible the fuel has to splash up in there. So it's possible to run out of gas even when you're not out of gas. So, with every quote upgrade or aftermarket thing, or like there's always a give and take with everything. And I just think it's interesting. Smoke and Trail says, yes, VE33S, the only tire I will buy for the rear anymore until someone comes out with something else. There's a lot of things out there. It's not he's talking about, I think he's talking about the IRC VE33S. It is not the softest gummy. It's just kind of like in the middle. The only thing I don't love about that tire is with tubeless, and I'm a big fan of tubeless, like the traditional tubeless. I know there's been all this stuff in the online world about this new version of tubeless that is supposed to come out later in the year, but the standard version of tubeless, I feel like that's the way that the bead works on the VE33S. I feel like it leaks like crazy. They all kind of leak a little bit, they do, but I feel like the way that they have the bead, the way that it's made, I feel like it leaks more than the others. But it's still like kind of one of my go-to tires. Cole says, hey man, love the content. Keep it up. Weston Carey says, hey buddy, good to see you. Weston Carey, if you guys don't know Weston is the original. He's the OG person who won a dirt bike from me. This is clear back in 2017. He now has, and I don't follow that many people on Instagram. I have a personal Instagram, which I keep really private. And then I've got the dirt bike channel thing. But I'm pretty sure I follow Weston on my personal Instagram, which only has like 60 followers or whatever, but it's Carey Concealment. So his name is Weston Carey. And then he has this, sorry, Weston, I'm sorry that I'm like outing you here, but I figure this can only help. But he has this business, and I think it's what he does full time. I'm not sure because we don't talk a lot. We should. But it's called Carey Concealment, and he makes holsters for pistols. And if any of you guys know, I'm a gun guy. I shouldn't say I'm a big gun guy. Like Weston's probably a lot bigger gun guy than I am. But like I have pistols in my truck. I have a pistol in my truck. I have a rifle in my truck. If you see me with a backpack and I'm not at the airport, there's a damn good chance that there's a pistol in the back, things like that. But Weston has made a really good business out of these holsters, and it's awesome. And I can see him down here in the bottom. He says, "Hey, you nailed it. Thanks for the shout out." But it's Carey Concealment, so it's a really awesome play on words. It's Carey is his last name. Weston, you'll have to put down in the comments what your handle is at Carey Concealment, because I can't remember how it's spelled. I could look it up on my phone. But he's such a cool dude. And I just love seeing people in our industry and there is some overlap there between people in pistols and rifles and dirt bikes. I had a guy email me just yesterday or the day before, and he asked if I carry a pistol when I'm riding. And I'm like, I have carried a pistol one time, and it was because I was the MSR vest. I think it was last summer. It has in one of the front pockets, it has like a little holster inside of one of the front pouches. And so I carried just to show that it has that. But I don't typically carry a pistol when I'm riding dirt bikes because it comes down to weight for me and what's going to keep me alive. Because a lot of times I'm carrying between 15 and 22 pounds of stuff in my backpack anyway. And it's water and it's tools and it's like a GPS communicator and it's a trail saw. And there's a beanie in there and a life bivvy and a water filtration device and all these things. And I was even looking at my pack my tools the other day, and I had this really heavy set of like pliers that they're not channel locks, but this plier that's an adjustable plier that I could use to take I could use it for a lot of things, including take off an axle nut. And I felt how heavy that was. I'm like, this is the heaviest thing in my tool pack. And I'm like, I got to take this out. And I took it out and I put in just a regular wrench that could take off my axle. But that's the point is there's so much weight that we're carrying. And I'm like, if I'm out there, who do I run into that's dangerous? Well, what do I run into that's dangerous out on the trails? I run into hikers that are basically harmless, and I run into hunters that have rifles. And I'm like, if for whatever reason I got into like an altercation with one of these hunters, which I hope I never do, their rifle is going to kick my butt every time because they're holding their rifle and I'm not holding my pistol, and rifles win against pistols every time anyway. And then if you think about animals, well, the animals are a hell of a lot more scared of me and my dirt bike than I, and also if I was scared about like a bear, what would I rather have? What do I think my chances of survival are better with? Bear spray or a 9mm Glock or whatever? I think my chances are way better with bear spray. First, I don't think I'm going to get in an altercation with the bear, but if I did, I'd rather have bear spray than a pistol. Now, if I could have an AR-15 with 2 extra magazines, yeah, I'll take that. But I'm not going to ride with an AR-15. So that's kind of like my thing is I love guns, all that stuff. But when I'm riding, I don't have a gun. My gun is in the truck. Now, this isn't an opportunity for you guys to break into my truck and steal my guns, but like I am a gun guy, and that was a whole thing on Carey, Weston Carey, but super cool guy, and he has that holster company. So anyway, back onto back onto dirt bikes. Smoke and Trail says the VE33S has new sizes too. I guess he's got a 2023 KTM 300 XCW Airsburg edition. Daryl Sipes, you need to brainstorm some new shirts. We do new shirts all the time. But Daryl, if you have, and some are better than others, right? So, but if you have suggestions for me, it's Kyle at Dirt Bike Channel, and I'd be happy to take your suggestion. So we do brainstorming every single time we have a sweepstakes. So I brainstorm shirts like 4 or 5 times a year. And then I'll typically do 2 new shirts for each giveaway. Some of them do better than others. And yeah, but it ain't as easy as it looks, Daryl. So you got to, like, some of them you hit. And by this point, I've probably done 100 different designs in shirts. Some are better than others, but yeah, send me an email if you got ideas. Shagbark Outdoors. Oh, wait. I'm going to skip somebody. So Smoke and Trail says, Smoke and Trails NS says 230-pound rider, 6'3", put bigger springs on, but suspension leaves something to be desired. Getting pressure to revalve. Suggestions. Yes, I do suggest that you revalve, dude. The bikes, it depends on which bike you're on, but they're typically valved for riders that are around, between 160, 180 pounds, depending on the motorcycle. And so if you're at 230 pounds, even though you put stiffer springs, you can put a stiffer spring on the rear and you can put stiffer springs in the forks, but the valving is still way off for you. So yes, you would want to get revalve. Now, the suspension revalve. Here's what my thing is with suspension. I think you should try to find somebody who's local to you. And the reason why I should is the reason why I do, I like the idea of supporting local business. They know the terrain that you're riding because that's where they live and that's where they ride. Basically, all these suspension guys, they typically ride too. So they have a pretty good idea of what you're doing. Okay. And then the other thing is like the follow-up appointment, I think, is very important if you need it, because they may not nail it on the first try. And if you have to take your suspension off the bike and put it back in a box and send it off for 3 weeks and then get it back, you're probably not going to do it. So my thought is, if you're going to get your suspension revalved, do it with a local shop. And that way, they'll know what terrain you're going to ride. And that follow-up appointment is going to be much, much easier for you. If you want suggestions for who to send it to, because you don't want that advice, you want to send it off to somebody. I love moto experts here in Utah. I've used different suspension companies across the country a few different times. You got to be careful And I think for me, I have had diminishing returns because I'm kind of in the weight range where these bikes are valved for anyway. So I think you at 230 pounds are going to get a bigger benefit of like getting that thing revalved than I usually ever would. Um, anyway, that's my thing. Shagbark Outdoors. Any chance of rehabbing a slightly rusty chain? Enough rust for some links to seize? Oh, dude. If links are seizing, I don't know. Like sometimes I'll have a rusty chain, but it's just rusty cosmetically. But if links are seizing, I would just replace it. So I like to use O-ring chains, which are sealed chains, and they don't need to be lubed. So if you have an O-ring chain or an X-ring chain, all you need to do is keep it clean and keep and dry it off. I use WD-40 to dry them off because WD-40 is a water disbursement, which keeps them from rusting. So after I wash my bike, I will, I blow it off with a leaf blower, and then I put WD-40 around my O-ring and X-ring chains, just spin it and spray it on there. That disperses the water off, and then I don't have rusting problems. But if it's seized, I would just go ahead and get a new chain. And I would get an O-ring chain. The only time that I believe that you ever need to use chain lube is if you're doing a chain that is not sealed. So if it's just a standard like bottom of the barrel chain, like just a motocross chain, like motocross bikes come with the shit chains. It's like we just bought a 2025 KTM 250 SXF for my son, and it came with the worst chain I've seen on a KTM. And I bought two other bikes that day. Both of them were the off-road bikes, and they both came with O-ring chains. So it's just if you get the motocross bikes, that is what I've seen, where the bad chains come that actually do need to be, quote, lubricated. And I bought an X-ring chain for my son's bike, and we're going to swap that over because I don't like lubing chains. It's just stupid because then you're like always flipping that chain lube off and getting on all the parts. And then I feel like the lube just attracts dirt. I think this is just a big racket. Nate Martinez. Okay, thanks. I'm looking for a tire that lasts and is a gummy. Damian Roberts, KTM Husky, gas. Mine broke. Two guys I raced with in the same season. Throttle was stuck for me. It was scary. I mean, anything can happen. Like I said, I think he's talking about the throttle body. Here's the deal, though. I've ridden a lot, and I've ridden with a lot of different guys, and that's a fluke. I'm just going to say that, Damian. Like, I bet you could ride for 10 more years and not break one. But you do whatever you want. Like, I'm not saying you're doing the wrong thing. I'm just saying I have never, to my knowledge, been on a ride when somebody broke their throttle. Well, no, I did. I can think there was one time that Tyler broke his throttle housing, or I wasn't. I might not have been with him, but I mean, he just looped the bike out and it landed completely on the handlebars. So you'd probably break a billet one then too. But yeah, you can put a lot of money into these things. And I guess the nice thing about a billet throttle body or whatever is maybe you could take that off and put it on another bike, and that'd be a good thing. If maybe you take off the stock one, put on your upgraded billet one, and then when you go to sell the bike, maybe you put the stock one back on or something like that. I could totally get behind something like that. It's not a terrible idea. Daryl Sipes here. You're going to get a Kawasaki two-stroke next year. They say they should have them all out. I mean, if they bring out a Kawasaki two-stroke, and if I'm still doing Dirt Bike Channel, then I wouldn't mind doing it. But we'll just see. Like, the way things are going, I can't plan into next year. People are saying, like, why don't you get a Honda right now or a Kawasaki right now? And the answer is those bikes in the sweepstakes, they don't do as well. I have a lot of data on that. And money is so tight right now. Like, people aren't even entering in for this gas. And it's like the sickest gas ever. And when I've done Hondas and when I've done Yamahas and when I've done Kawasaki's, the uptake in those sweepstakes is even less. So I don't know. I need to come up with some additional revenue streams. The links to Rocky Mountain ATV, it's the best thing that I've got because it doesn't have a lot of overhead. Or I mean, it has no overhead really. And they're a great partner. The Dirt Bike Channel, the sweepstakes are a good revenue stream, but there's a high overhead cost with those. And then if you get a Kawasaki and people aren't that interested in it, remember the Stark Varg that everyone was bugging me to get? Like, there was so many people bugging me to get it. And then because it wasn't a two-stroke KTM, no one cared and no one entered. So, I mean, if I'm still around doing this in this capacity, I would absolutely love to be on a or get a Kawasaki two-stroke. It'd be fun. So, we'll see. Yeah, Damien Roberts says like TPI and TBI covers. I put ones on, but never quote needed to. That's the exact same thing I'm talking about, Damien. We put all these things on our bikes, like these quote insurance pieces, but how often do they get broken? Now, when they do break, it sucks. But I did the same thing with you. I put a bunch of these covers on. I even sold the the TPS covers, throttle position sensor covers. I sold them. I bought them. Like all these things, and I don't know if I would have ever broken one ever. You know. So Sean says 60 degrees up in southeast Idaho yesterday. Had to take a break from snowmobiling and take the bike for a spin. It was awesome. That's sweet. It was warm. It has been warmer here the last couple of days. Um, Shag Bark Outdoor says, I have a dedicated piece I carry with me, very thin and lightweight, 7+1. And that's great. Like it isn't, there's so many things. There's so many things that I'd rather uh prioritize my weight with. Cause I'm like, I really think, I think in my pack, I say, well, what's going to keep me alive? And I have a hard time because that's what it really is. It's like, I have a hard time feeling like the most time you'd probably spend on the mountain or whatever is maybe 12 hours, maybe 24 hours. And in that amount of time, I don't think a gun is going to help me. I think a life bivy is going to help me. I think a way to filter water is going to help me. I think a jacket is going to help me a lot more than a gun. I think a way to start a fire, which I typically have two different ways to start fires, is going to help me more than a gun's going to help me. So that's what I do. Motion Pro has lightweight tools. Yes, I do own Motion Pro tools. I have them in my pack. Rhino Game says, thanks for getting the fender straps again. So handy to have on every ride. Yeah, I put some of those up on the website. I wonder how they're doing as far as sales go. I should look at that and just see, because I bought about 100 of them. They're expensive for me to get. Oh, look, I might need to see if because I've sold like 29 of them. So I've sold like 30% of my stock. I need to make a list of that. I'm gonna make a thing. I don't know if I can get those. Like if I don't know if I could get a restock. The hooks are not hard to get. It's the straps. Those Voilet straps are hard to get. Sometimes you can get them, sometimes you can't. Damien says, until you fall on a can of bear spray. Well, hopefully it would be in a pack. It would be in the riding pack, and hopefully it would be contained. Let's see. Sean says, bring back the DNA chain on the back. Favorite design ever. You know what's funny about that, Sean? I thought that was going to be a good one. That was not a good one. So it had, I don't know. I don't have a way to show it, but it had like on the back, there was like a chain that looked like it was like not tangle, but like in a double helix, like a DNA. I thought it was going to be a banger. It didn't sell well at all. Yeah. Damien says, I don't know what she's trying to say, but my wife likes wearing the do hard things. That's funny. That's funny stuff. Do hard things. It's one of my favorite things to say, but now that you put it in context of your wife, it has a whole different meaning. How do you carry your rifle in your truck? It's in my truck under my seat. How did your MAGA shirts do? The MAGA shirts did well. So the MAGA shirts, it was Make America Gnarly Again. And I did it in that September sweepstakes. It was, around the election time and everything. But it's funny. Most riders, are pretty conservative, bleed red or whatever. But our country is so divided politically. I had several people pissed off about that. I had people sending me like hate email. Like, I can't believe you, and I can't believe you're going so political and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, first off, I've never said one thing political on this channel. And I'm selling a shirt that says Make America Gnarly Again. It's not blue or red, so but anyway, Yeah. So, but then I did a restock of those for the next one because they were so popular. So you can kind of tell if a shirt is pretty popular because I might have a restock of it where it trails into the next sweepstakes a little bit. So that's how that worked. Um, let's see. Nate Martinez. So, how many hours should you run a chain and sprocket? This is a great question. It depends on the motor and how much and how hard you run it. But I can tell you that I've never worn out a chain in under 100 hours. Usually, I would say that around 100 hours is a good time to be looking at it. But I mean, it could be on 70 hours. Like my son's 125, I was looking at it. The chain was still in good shape, but the sprockets were starting to kind of get pulled a little bit. The teeth were getting deformed, especially on that rear sprocket, and so we replaced front sprocket, rear sprocket, and the chain at essentially 69, 70 hours on that one. So it just kind of depends on the bike, but and never once did we lube the chain, not one time. So it went 70 hours and we never lubed the chain a single time. All we did was wash it and put on WD-40. And the chain was in better shape than the sprockets were. So it just kind of depends. If you're on like a 450 and you're always on it or hard or whatever, you can wear out a sprocket faster. Now, if you have one of these sprockets that has this steel outer core, then they last longer, and so you could definitely run one of those 100 or more hours. The most I ever ran a chain, I think, was like around 130 hours, a chain and a sprocket set. And I just watched it, but I think anywhere between 50 to 70 hours, you should be looking at it for sure. And then somewhere between that 50 and 100 is probably when you're going to need to replace a chain and sprocket. Um, Milton Zinn says, I got double entries on the 300. It looks sick. It does. Damien Stangerlin says, have you thought about diversifying into dual sport content? Pretty booming nowadays. Hope you're doing well. So people have mentioned this. I just don't like it. Like I didn't get into this. I didn't get into this to make content and make a living doing it. And I don't like dual sporting enough to even want to make that content. I would be forcing it. Like every time I would be talking about like, oh, here's this bike and here's this saddlebag and here's this thing, I would be literally making it up. And I can't make it up. So if I take a step back from Dirt Bike Channel and do it more part-time or whatever, I don't envision myself opening up another YouTube channel because it takes so much time. And honestly, this has not been a great financial decision. Like I mean, I got divorced in there, so it's really hard to say because that takes a huge hit. For those that don't know, I was divorced over 3 years ago, separated in 2021. So I've almost been 4 years separated, and then we got divorced 3 years ago. But so it's hard to say, but my cash flow is tighter now than it's been since I was 28. And I'm 43. So this is not, it's just slowly gotten harder and harder to do it. And if I go into something else, which I'm probably going to have to, you know, um, go back and get another sales job or see something like that. I don't want to do dual sport content. Like I honestly don't want to, if I'm not like super excited about it, I don't want to make content on it, So that's why I wouldn't want to do a dual sport channel. Yeah. It's too much work to start over. And I hardly make any money on YouTube anyway, like almost nothing. This year I'll make like $25,000 on YouTube. That's what it's heading to be. Now imagine $25,000 is all I'm going to make on YouTube. So the affiliate links have to kick in a lot more, which they do. The sweepstakes have to pay, which they do. Like anytime you donate on PayPal, there's even still a few people going through Patreon. Like I'm not a big fan of Patreon anymore, but there's still a few people that donate on Patreon and every little bit helps, but if you donate through PayPal, that helps. I keep more of it. The reason why I don't, excuse me, the reason I don't like Patreon is they took like 30% off the top, and now they're in the Apple App Store, and I think that takes like 30% off the top. I mean, it's insane. So the Patreon thing is kind of a bust. But anyway, yeah, YouTube is not people are like, hey, I want to start a YouTube channel. What should I You have any advice for me? I'm like, yeah, don't quit your day job. Some people make money, and some people make a lot of money off YouTube. I'm just not one of them. I've never been one. Harry Johnson says revving the engine should turn a bear around, and I think it typically does. Um, William Martinez, should KTM owners be concerned about the company going broke? I think no. I think they've already even reached an agreement. They're going to start their production again in March. I only did one. I did one video on it. Consequently, it was the best video I've done in a long time as far as like performance wise. But no, I don't think that anybody has anything to worry about as far as KTM. Its solvency. It's going to work. Yeah. Like, so I did a video January 16th. Is KTM going under? It got essentially 79,000 views. The video after it, 5,000 views. The video after that, which was way harder to produce, 12,700 views. So it's like, I just did a video like, hey, is KTM going under? And took me no time at all. I mean, I did a little bit of research, most views, and then everything else, no, like hardly any views at all. So yeah, that's part of the thing that's so frustrating with YouTube is like, it seems like the harder you try, the worse the videos do. And the more like just fly by your butt they do so well. It's one of my problems with YouTube and TikTok is like, it's almost like the dumber the video, the better it's going to do. And I just kind of hate that, you know, like, yeah, I'm not into the dumber. Like, I don't want to watch a video and be dumber by the end of it, but it seems like those are the videos that get shared more and get done. Mike Tucker says, KTM bankruptcy, do you think we'll see discounts on new bikes? I doubt it. There's still enough of a demand for the people that want them. Obviously, they overproduced. So I mean, there are some discounts and rebates for like if you can find a 24 still left over. But I haven't seen, and I don't talk to a lot of people that are buying new bikes, but I haven't seen that they're putting like rebates on the 25s. But I've heard about rebates on some of the 23s that are sticking around, if there are any. And then definitely if there's a 24 sticking around, they do have some rebates on those, is what I've heard. George, have you ever considered being a dirt bike tour guide as an alternate revenue stream? Your riding videos are incredible, and what got me interested in your channel. Yes, I have. The government makes that impossible. So here's what that looks like, George. The government says if you're going to make money on their public land, they want to know everything about it and they want to take a cut of it. So what they do is they issue these quote service days. So you go to them and you petition for every area of the forest or whatever that you want to do these guides in, and they have a certain amount of service days that they allow. And then you got to come in with like a insurance certificate and an emergency plan and all this stuff. Well, in my area, all those quote service days are already used up. They're already purchased. So I can't legally do it unless something's changed. There's a couple companies here that already do it. And I can't, like, so they've kind of got a corner market. So the government, I really am not a super fan of big government. I'm not a fan. I want government to stay out of the way. But in this case, what they do is they say only a certain amount of quote money can be made, and they have it all locked up already. So I can't legally guide here. Smoking Trail says he did dirt bikes for 15 or did street bikes for 15 years and then switched back 2 years ago to dirt and won't look back. Dual sport seems like a good idea, but I don't like the idea of having something that's worse on the road and off road. And that's another thing. So it's another thing. I hate the tires. If you get a DOT, a Department of Transportation approved tire, it's crap on the dirt. If it's good, if that's one of the main problems, and it's one of the main problems that I don't want to do dual sport is, and I have this conversation with people all the time. If the tire works on dirt, well, it's dangerous. It's downright dangerous on the street. And if it works on the street, well, it's downright crap on the dirt. The tire compound has to be, if it's going to work on the street, it has to be a totally different compound. And so I don't love that part of it. Damien says, more than fair. Thanks for the response. I was bitten by the dual sport bug before I found dirt bikes, but my two bikes kind of live on dirt bike trails. Might get us 300 sooner than later. Yeah, for some people, they love the dual sport thing. I just don't, for so many reasons. Josie Fichetti says, I have a KTM EXE 450. It's a 2018 Super Moto. Is it still a good bike? I don't know. I haven't seen your bike. I'm not a big fan of Super Moto. I'm just like, if you're gonna supermoto, just get an actual street bike. So much better. Like, I don't get this, and I'm sorry, I don't want to offend you, but I don't get this. So essentially, I don't know. My thought is, because in a specialized world, I feel like you either need to be on street or on dirt. And I do not, for the life of me, understand the supermoto thing. The supermoto, for those that don't know, is when you get street tires for your dirt bike. I Why not just get a street bike? I don't understand it. Your dirt bike will never have enough power for the street. You notice that on street bikes, they're not 250s. Street bikes are like 1100s and 1500s, and there's a reason for that. I mean, obviously, the sport bike is like a 600, but a small sport street bike is a 600cc bike, and a lot of times there's 600 twins. And we're out here riding single cylinder 250s or single cylinder 450s or whatever. It's just not enough power. I just don't get it. Like, and you're not gonna talk me into it. I've thought about it for decades, and I don't get it. I don't get the supermoto thing. Um, the dual sport thing makes more sense to me than supermoto, because on dual sport, it's like I want to go on an adventure, and I don't know what I'm gonna, and I want to be able to go a long way, and some of that is going to be on oil, and some of that's going to be on dirt, and so uh I can understand the allure of adventure bikes. I just don't have any desire for it. I don't understand supermoto. I don't get it. I'm just like, just get a damn street bike. Like, and again, I'm not I don't want I'm not attacking you specifically. I'm just saying, you asked, is it a good bike? I'm like, I don't know. Like, 2018 450 EXC probably was a really good bike at that time. And if you've taken care of it, it probably still is a good bike. But if you're asking me, like, do I think it's like supermoto? I'm not a fan. I do not get it. I don't understand it. Now, to each their own. I don't have to understand it. If you like it and you love it, that's good. That's for you. But I don't get supermoto. I don't know. Damien Robert says, do you want to own a pest control franchise? If I could make money doing it, heck, I would. It seems like there's a million people in Utah. I have a pest control company here. That not I have it, but I have a service that comes and does it. Weston Carey says tape 10 kazoo. Oh, here we go. Weston, he's with the guy with the concealment thing. Tape 10 kazoos to the exhaust of a 450 and ride it into a Taco Bell, and you'll get 100,000 views. Oh, record a well thought out review of a new enduro model, and you'll get 200 of us. Yeah, Weston nails it. If I do something totally stupid, you get a lot of views. But if I do a well thought out review of a model, 200 of us is all I'll get. It's so true. I thought you were being you're being a little facetious there, but it's actually not a bad idea. It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I don't get views. It doesn't seem to matter if I work really hard on it or if I don't work really hard on it. Most of the videos that have done, quote, better than others are the ones that I've put hardly any effort into. And some of that has to do with, like, well, are you making videos on what's trending? And the answer is no, I usually don't, because I don't, like, I got into this to make videos on what I wanted to make videos on. I didn't want to, like, get out there and be like, hey, what's the world talking about right now? And then that's what social media is in so many ways. It's like, hey, what's trending right now on Twitter or X or whatever, and or what's the hottest thing on YouTube, and now I'm going to make a video about that. Like, the amount of reels that I've seen of like something to do with Kendrick Lamar after the Super Bowl, like the whole "they not like us" thing. makes me want to vomit. But that's what social media is. It's like, hey, let's make a video on what's the hot thing or whatever. And I despise that about social media and the internet. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just a bunch of group think. So and making us dumber. And the whole like thing between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Like I hear about it because I have teenagers, and I'm like, and my teenagers are, oh my gosh, this happened and this. I'm like, you realize that no one gives a shite about this except for a bunch of teenagers that don't have jobs. Like, no, it's so huge. So I'm like, yeah, it's huge right now with social media because there's a bunch of kids that don't have jobs that are continuing to spread it. But I don't give a shite about like the little bit of like back and forth and arguing between two wannabe gangsters. And I'm like, and in 50 years, we're still listening to like Beatles music and Eagles music and whatever. Do you think in 50 years we're going to give two shites about Kendrick Lamar or Drake? I'm like, the answer is no. It's not good enough music. Anyway, that's my thing on that and like social media and like current stuff. But yeah, Weston makes a good point. 10 kazoos to the back of a 450 into a Taco Bell, and I get a bunch of views. Shag Bark Outdoors. I do tree work on the side, and the same thing. Idiots with the power saw. Oh, so he says, I do tree work on the side, and it's the same thing. Idiots with the power saw gets huge views. It's irritating. Yeah, when you're trying to actually educate somebody, you don't get any views. Jack Stan Jeeper says on the dual sport thing, I watch more dirt bike content, even though mine is technically a dual sport. KTM EXCF 500 6 days. But I'm not gay, and I use it more like a dirt bike than a street bike. Okay, that was Jack Stan. I was just reading his comment. No prejudice here, but it did make me laugh. Chris B says adventure bike is the way to go, and for some people it is. Damien Stangherlin says riding a dual sport adventure is like a dirt. Riding a dual sport / adventure like a dirt bike is the GOAT, is the greatest of all time. I think what he means is riding one of these big dual sports on like hard enduro stuff or something is like the greatest of all time. Jason M says, I wish there was a true do it all dual sport, but there's always give and take, and there always is. And I don't like the gives that you have to have. Harry Johnson says Mexler 360 front tracks well, back tire still in review. Jason M says exactly, street bike and dirt bike. That's my thing. I'm like, if you want to ride on the street, get a street bike, and if you want to ride on the dirt, get a dirt bike. There are these adventure bikes where I get it, but they're bigger. They're bigger bikes that you're going to be on a 650 or a 900 or a 1200 because you're going to be doing a bunch of street. Turning your 300EX, 300 XCW, or your 450 EXCF into a street bike, I just don't get it. I don't get it at all. And I've ridden street bikes. I've owned street bikes. My dad's had Harleys and different things. I've had street bikes. I've had bullet bikes. I've had like a big KTM street bike. But street bike is boring to me, to be honest. Steve Douglas says, Lake Stevens, Washington. The bike is a 2025 Husky TX300 Heritage Edition. Rockstar Husqvarna build. Awesome. Damian Roberts says, my 1970 441 Victor BSA was a dual sport. Now it's my only street bike. Jack Stan Jeeper says, I'm going to try the kazoo thing. I just installed an FMF. It should be sick. KTMer says Kendrick who? Exactly. I didn't know, but if you watch the Super Bowl and if you've been on freaking Instagram, everything is a reel from Kendrick Lamar. But I mean, like, M. Davis says, just change the tires for the weekend. Dave Hughes says he's riding a Husqvarna 701. And Smoke Trail says the previous owner of my last KTM 300 XCW had turn signals on it. I snapped half them off on my first ride. This is true. Always break. Like, yeah, I have so many thoughts about that. But yeah, dude, there's a truck that just went by that I thought was my truck. I look out the window and there was a truck that went by and I'm like, did somebody steal my truck? This is the first time I've had an office on the main level in all the times I've had offices. And I can look right out there and it's out my front window so I can see like Amazon packages coming. but it gets kind of distracting if you look out and you see a truck that looks like yours. Weston Carey says, I currently have a 10-year 700. It's a fat, tall, heavy dirt bike, worse in every metric compared to the Sherco I won from this channel, except it's how I spend time with dad. That totally works. So Weston won a Sherco SE 300 two-stroke from me back in 2017, and we met in Moab. I still think about it every time I go to Moab. But we met down there, and he got that bike. But right now he's running that big Yamaha T7. But yeah, if it's how you spend time with your dad, that's great. And you know what, Weston, you do have the ability to carry on that bike because the bike is big and it's already heavy, and you're not going out there probably doing a bunch of like nasty single track. So Weston can carry his pistol in the holsters that he makes. I wonder if he has a holster that works well for a dirt bike. I don't know. Damian Roberts says kids act this way and know who that is because their parents don't put them out on dirt bikes enough. LOL. My son just turned 5 and it's the second year of racing. He will not know. You say that, Damian, but like my boys still, they pick up all this stuff at school. So no matter how much they ride dirt bikes, they're still going to know about like the music that's happening in the day. That's for sure. My girlfriend's boys are 9 and 11, and they play sports and everything, and they're listening to all the new stuff, you know. So I don't know. David Nike says, Kyle, my 25 TE 300 Pro just got a 45 tooth in the rear. Do I technical single track? I can't seem to find the right gear. Would you 48? I mean, yeah, if you're having a hard time, it depends on what's on the front. I can't remember what was on the front of that bike. But a 45 is a small sprocket in the back, but it's probably because they went with a bigger sprocket in the front. They probably have it's probably a 14 tooth on the front and then a 48 on the rear. So you could either drop to a 13 in the front, which would drop you quite a bit. Or you could go up to a 48 in the rear. You know, you could do either one. The one tricky thing is going from a 45 to a 48, your chain might not be long enough. It may still be, but you just got to watch for that. Let's see. Damien says, I get that, but we can try. We're doomed. Jason M says, I try to get my kids out riding and they just weren't into it. Bum me out. Well, and sometimes they're just not. And then they go through phases too. I think the biggest thing is to just support them in what they want to do. So like my 16-year-old son, he's really gotten into moto, and I'm not into moto. And now he's way better than me at moto because he wanted to race this series, and he did a bunch of practicing, and now he can kick my arse on a track because I hardly ever ride tracks. It just isn't my thing. But like I've gone to the track with him a few times, but most of the time we go to the track, he's been 10 times for every time I've been once, and he's so much better than me. But my younger son, who's 14, he's hardly ridden a dirt bike at all in the last few years. He's mostly just focused on basketball. But he still is a little ripper, you know, compared to like most kids. But we're not winning any races or anything like that. We just do it for fun. But I just support them on what they want to do. And the same thing goes for like wives and girlfriends. I get these emails from people like, how do I get my wife or my girlfriend into dirt bikes? And I'm like, has she asked you to get into it? Does she want to get into it? You can't force this thing on people. Like it's uncomfortable. It's scary. It's hard. It's like, it's all these things. It's intimidating. And so, and I was too intimidated to ride dirt bikes until I was 30. Like I had all these, I mean, my dad had some dual sport bikes when I was growing up and stuff. And I got my motorcycle license when I turned 16, but I rode four-wheelers because, to be dead honest with you, I was scared of dirt bikes. I would watch my buddies. I rode my buddies like CR65, and it was like an on-off switch, and I was totally scared of it. And I would see these different guys that I'd go riding with, and they would like crash. They were always crashing and everything on their dirt bikes, and I wasn't crashing on my four-wheeler. So I'm like, I was scared of it. And then finally, it wasn't until I was 30, and I'm like, oh, I just had this itch I wanted to scratch, and I got a dirt bike, and it changed everything. But like, it had to come from me. And so if the kids aren't interested in it, or your wife or your girlfriend isn't interested in it, you know, there's not much you can do. One sec. Let's see. We've got a few more minutes here. Jack Stan Jeeper says, there is hope for the next generation. My son will be 2 in May, is all about dirt bikes, loves watching them on YouTube, and in love with the Malcolm Stewart diecast. We picked him up at Daytona. That's awesome. A 2-year-old in May. You got everything ahead of you. That's awesome. Smoking Trails NS says, my son is 6 years old and he signed up for hair scrambles this year. Pumped. He's riding Hondas for now. He can buy KTMs when he gets a job. LOL. Jack Stan Jeeper says, I just ordered some kazoos on Amazon. They should have them tomorrow. That's great. Or were they Amazon Prime? Like get by, 7 a.m. David Nike says his daughter rides a Honda E2 and a TT, I think a TTR 50. I love watching her ride. Weston Carey says 2 options. He has 2 options for carrying while riding. Chest rig up here or fanny pack. Depends on your shape and how active you are on the bike. Oh, I'd love to see your chest rig. Weston, you're going to have to reach out to me. I don't know if I have your phone number. I probably still do. I'll send you a text or something. Harry Johnson says, so glad you saw the light and lost 2 wheels. Yeah, I am too. Damien says, all jokes aside, we love it. Keep it up, Kyle. And Weston says, I'll send you some info on the holsters and stuff. Damien says, hair scrambles. I'm an officer here in Michigan for District 14. I'm 48 and I've raced since I was 7. Sprint Enduro rocks too. Jason M says, I have a 511 bag that goes crossbody for carrying while riding. You know, it's funny. So, Jason, you say you have a 511 bag? 511, right here. So most of the pants you guys see me wearing, you're probably not watching to watch my pants, but I'm wearing 511 jeans. That's like, I've got 511 t-shirts. I have 511 jeans. I have 511 pants. So it's like a lot of police officers will wear 511 and military guys and everything. So yeah. And they're great. Like I love my 511 stuff. I freaking love it. I've spent so much money over the years at 511tactical.com. So anyway, it's good stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna cut you guys loose. We've been going here for about an hour. It's been super fun. It's always fun to do these. If you have any questions that you think I can help with, send me an email. It's kyle@dirtbikechannel.com. You can get entered to win that gas by going to my website, dirtbikechannel.com, and either buying anything on my website or clicking on the links, the affiliate links for Rocky Mountain ATV. And all I do now is basically answer emails of saying like, hey, did it work? Did the Rocky Mountain ATV thing work? Because they don't give you any confirmation. There's a little tracking cookie at the end of the URL of all my links. That's like a question mark RF 1017. You don't need to know that, but that's the tracking. They reload the page real quick, put the tracking cookie in your browser, and then it gets credited to me. But they don't show you anything. And I wish they did, because I have a copy and paste email now, because now every day I get at least 10 emails of saying like, hey, did it work? And my response is like, hey, thank you so much for using those links. I appreciate it so much more than you know. And here's how it works. So anyway, yeah, the Rocky Mountain ATV link is a great way to get entered into these sweepstakes, and then anything off my website. And I get it that a lot of people are like, dude, I don't want any more of your shirts, which is the entire reason that I have people use the Rocky Mountain ATV links. Some people have said, well, can I just buy like a raffle for it? Like, I'd rather just give you money. I don't want to buy anything. And I'm like, well, no, you can't, because that would make it gambling in my state. In most of the states that don't have gambling, if you just had a raffle ticket, it makes it illegal and it makes it gambling. And so you've got to buy a service or a product. And so I'm just like, dude, if you were willing to spend $50 on raffle tickets, just spend $50 at Rocky Mountain ATV on one of the tens of thousands of things that they have in stock. And then you'd have a product at the end, and it won't be illegal for me. You know, it wouldn't be racketeering. So that's kind of what I do. But yeah, so favorite, I'm just looking at this. What's your favorite shift lever for my favorite shift lever is the stock ones. Like, I just think it's great. Weston Carey says, can I win again? Just kidding. Take care, dude. Yes, you can. There's nothing in the official rules that say that you can't be a 2-time winner. I don't draw the finalists. Like, I pay another company to do this. So even if I had a second time winner, there's nothing. The only people that can't win are family members. So if you're a direct family member, you can't win. But other than that, you can. So I've Weston, you're not the only person that has asked me if they can win again, because now I've got over 40 people that have won dirt bikes. So it's getting every time we do this, every single time we do this, the chances are getting higher and higher and higher that I will at least have somebody who's another finalist. I don't know that I've ever had a finalist that was a finalist twice, but you could be the first. So it would be pretty awesome, dude. If Weston if Weston won this gas, I think I should just mic drop and retire straight off that. I'm like, look, he won the first one, he won the 43rd one or 42nd or whatever it is. Like mic drop and just like sign off, and then just like go get a job somewhere else. I mean, like I gave 42 people dirt bikes, and I gave one person two over like a long period of time. That'd be pretty fun. But no one would watch the video. Like no one watches the handoff videos. I do it because I like to meet the people, and I think if I can meet you, I think it means a lot to them. But to the rest of YouTube, they don't even care. It's the worst videos that I do. It's like they will literally be half the views, if not worse, than any other video. In fact, I even named one of them last year. I named it a video you won't watch. YouTube will never show you this video. Just to see, and they didn't. But it's like when it's somebody else winning a bike, no one cares. No one cares. Oh my gosh, super hilarious. But anyway, so I digress. Okay, I'm gonna cut you guys loose. My son has a basketball game tonight. Get this, he's in 8th grade. Guess what time the basketball game is tipping off? 9 p.m. And it's a half hour away from me, and it's a half hour away for his mom. And I just had him over the weekend. So I dropped him off at school this morning, had to drive a half hour one way and drive back. So I've already been in the truck for over an hour to get him to school. And now with his basketball game, and that was at 7 in the morning. Now his basketball game is a half hour, slightly different direction, one way. It tips off at 9 p.m. We've had a few of these. He's in 8th grade. There was one in 7th grade where it tipped off at 9 p.m. I'm like, and this is on a freaking school night. This is basketball, man. This is my life. So anyway, love you guys, and we'll keep in touch, but go ahead and get entered to win that gas. It's been a slow start to it. I'll probably send an email out tomorrow to you guys to just remind you, because the double entries are going to end on the 5th. So tomorrow I'll probably send an email and say, hey, don't make sure to get entered in this sucker. So anyway, thanks for your support, and until next time, leave a single track. Thanks.